In this video, we are going to talk about the most dangerous punishments of history, which I will tell you about the strange and extremely painful punishments given to people in our history. Spanish donkey. Friends, this punishment is also called wooden horse. This punishment was given in Spain. In this punishment, spikes were placed on a wooden device. A person was made to sit on these spikes as if he is sitting on a horse or donkey. After this, a very heavy weight was tied to his feet. Due to this weight, these spikes slowly entered the human body, due to which the human slowly died. The Spanish donkey is called one of the most painful punishments in history. Head crusher. Friends, this was a torture device that was used in Spain hundreds of years ago. In this device, an iron rod was made. A person was placed on a stool and his head was placed inside this device. This rod was placed on the head of the person and a screw was turned. As this screw turned, this rod pressed the head of the person with pressure. And finally, the person's head was crushed in the middle. First of all, the person's teeth would break and then the person's eyes would come out. This punishment was for many hours and finally, the person's brain would also come out of his head. The knee splitter. This strange punishment was given about 900 years ago. There was a wooden device in it, on both sides of which there were iron spikes. The person's legs were placed in the middle of this device. And then the very sharp spikes of this device entered the human legs with extreme pressure. This pressure was so intense that many times the human legs were cut in the middle. This device is called the knee splitter. And even today, you will find this device in many museums. Immurement. Friends, there were many ways of this punishment. Basically, the person was imprisoned somewhere and his death took place at this place. As the person was chosen inside the wall, there was only a small hole in this wall so that this person could breathe. Without eating or drinking for a few days, the person would die here, or the person would be locked in a wooden box, in which there was only a small hole. Many times people were also buried alive. Immurement is called all these painful punishments. Torture. This punishment was very painful. In this punishment, a person was tied and laid on a table, and then the person was operated. The only difference was that this person was alive. A man used to stand near the table with many tools in his hand. These tools had knives, axes, and all kinds of torture tools. And then this man used to torture this person with these tools, due to which the person's death was slow. Even today, you will find such torture tables in many museums of the world. And maybe even today this method is used in the world. Let's talk about the execution by animals in the end. In human history, animals have been used a lot to punish prisoners. As the person's hands and legs were tied with horses, these horses tried to run, and the person was in the middle. The horses used to apply their strength, and after a while, the person's hands and legs began to separate from the body. In the ancient Roman Empire, it was common to put people in front of lions and crocodiles. In addition to this, a person was hanged, and an elephant crushed him with his feet. We get to see countless such punishments in history. Van started in China. It was a normal van, but people were given death penalty in it. There was a bed inside the death van. It felt like you were in a hospital. The person who had to be given death penalty was hung on this bed and killed by a poisonous injection. There were dozens of such death vans in China. This is a very strange way of giving death penalty. The punishment of the sack in ancient Greece. This dangerous punishment was given to the person who killed his relative. The person was kept in a leather bag and this bag was closed, but the person was not alone in this bag. Along with the person, a monkey, a snake, and a dog were also kept. And then this bag was thrown into the water. Animals used to injure or kill people to save their lives. Otherwise, the person would drown in the water with these animals in no time. Death by 1,000 cuts. This punishment was given in China, Vietnam, and Korea. In this punishment, the person had to go through a lot of torture. That's why in 1905, it was banned in China. In this dangerous punishment, 1,000 cuts were applied to a person's body for many days through a knife. Blood was slowly coming out of the human body, and eventually the person died. In this punishment, the person had to go through a lot of pain. This punishment was started in ancient China about 1,100 years ago, but in 1905, it was banned in China. This punishment is still given today. This strange punishment is given to the mafia or gangs in America. In this punishment, a person's legs are put in a box or a bucket. And then this bucket or box is filled with wet concrete so that its legs are frozen inside. Then this person is thrown into the water. In 2016, a gang member Peter Martin's body was found in Manhattan Beach in America. His legs were frozen in a 5-gallon bucket containing concrete. Water and mouth torture. This torture was very painful. In this, a person was hung and a funnel was inserted into his throat. And then water was put inside the person through this funnel. When many liters of water went inside, the person's stomach and chest began to swell. But the matter does not end here. If a person had to undergo a lot of torture, then water was boiled and put inside the person. This was done many times in a day. And finally, the person's organs would die due to deterioration. The tub torture. This punishment was extremely painful. This punishment was given in ancient Greece. In this, a person was put inside a bucket or tub, and then this tub was closed, but the person's mouth was out. After this, milk and honey were applied to the person's face. After this, thousands of honeybees and insects were left on this person. These bees and insects would slowly hurt the person and kill him. That is, this tub or bucket would become a person's grave. And finally, let's talk about chair torture. This punishment was given in Europe 300 years ago. This was a chair on which 1,000 to 1,500 spikes were attached. A person was made to sit on this chair, and these spikes were heated. This punishment was not to kill a person, but to torture him. If a person had to say something, then he was given a chair torture. You will find such chairs in many museums in China. The treadmill is probably the world's most famous exercise machine. But did you know it was invented as a punishment? In 1821, Sir William Cubitt designed a machine for lazy prisoners. This machine had a large wheel and pedals on which many prisoners had to run, grinding wheat as they moved. Many prisoners tried to escape or even died because of this harsh punishment, which was eventually banned. Next, we have the Chinese water punishment. This strange and simple torture was used in China and Spain during the 15th and 16th centuries. Prisoners were hung and cold water was dripped onto their forehead for hours. It might sound harmless, but the continuous dripping drove prisoners insane, making them feel like their forehead was being drilled into. Now, let's talk about tickling torture. It might sound funny, but it was a serious form of mental torture in ancient China. Prisoners were tied up and tickled until they experienced intense anxiety and fatigue, losing control over their bodies. This torture was used to force prisoners to confess. Moving on to the White Room punishment. In this modern yet bizarre torture, prisoners are kept alone in a completely white room with no windows. Everything is white, including their clothes, food, and bathroom. The room is soundproof, causing prisoners to slowly go mad from the isolation and sensory deprivation. Another strange punishment from a few hundred years ago in Europe is the shame mask. People accused of witchcraft or telling inappropriate jokes were forced to wear iron masks, often shaped like animals, and paraded through the streets. This punishment was particularly common in Germany.